Greetings to all those watching this. Thank you for clicking on this link. This is a eulogy to my recently beloved departed brother who died suddenly at the age of 47 and was buried yesterday, May 5th, 2020. I've recorded this eulogy because, as you know, we're in this time of a pandemic called COVID-19 that has prevented us from being together and sharing it. Could only have a maximum of 10 people at the gravesite. There was no service. So for those who would love to have heard the eulogy, who would have loved to be there, for anybody who's interested in knowing more about David, at least through my eyes, I thought I'd share this piece of beauty in these strange, difficult times when I feel we could use more beauty and we can share more together. Over 47 years ago, 17 days before winter officially began, there was a blizzard. It was as if an infusion of energy that needed to be expressed instantly, could not be controlled. Howling winds, big puffy flakes, complete whiteout. A young married couple braved these elements because they needed to get somewhere. Their rear-wheel drive was fishtailing up a hill. It couldn't make it. They needed to get up the hill. They needed to get through that snow, through that whiteness, to get to a hospital. When out of the white came some strangers. With love in their hearts and generosity of their time, they helped my parents get up the hill so they can get to the hospital. Courage, love, and generosity reigned supreme on December 4th, 1972, the day my big brother, David Lawrence Sargon, was born. Dear loved ones, cherished friends, everyone who could not be there with us yesterday on May 5th, and anybody who wants to know more about David. We take a time to mourn his loss, great sadness, but I would like to celebrate my brother. I would like to share with you what I feel that courage, love, and generosity were the three pillars on which David rests in my heart. Let's talk about courage. David did not come into this world with a whimper. That, although it's known that they know it, it's not his way. He had an epic roar. It was as if he was infused with that passion and that he needed to express it instantaneously. He could not contain it, just like that howling wind of the blizzard. He was born with childhood epilepsy. He's dyslexic, and he had some physical problems. There were times when I would look into his eyes and I would sense he felt different. The cruelty of children, which we all exposed to in our lives, constant visits to the hospital, and limited resources did nothing much to change that view. Specialists insisted that he would not graduate high school. But don't you tell David what he can do. Don't do it. It wasn't easy. David does require a lot of energy, a lot of fuel to get through things. All that passion explodes through him, as you know. But with the patience and love of devoted parents who had nothing but patience and love to give, with a mother who relentlessly devoted herself and pushed the limits of her own fragile strength perhaps a bit too far, a father who could not conceive of giving up and did everything he could to collect what little resources he could, David was able to channel the strength of his favorite DC superhero, Superman, and he did the impossible. Not only did he graduate high school, but he finished a bachelor degree in applied human science because he loved people that much. So let's talk about love. The trials and tribulations of David's life were no match for the joy, exuberance, and love he had within him. It was there from the get-go. We have stories, my parents regaled me with stories about how he would streak naked through the streets of TMR to get to his favorite park that he loved so much as an infant. And of course, many of us have been witness and have been the recipients of his generous acts of affection. Of course, he has a particular way of expressing his affection. It's like that howling wind, that roar that comes from him. The infusion of energy that he can't contain, he needs to express it instantly, and it tests the patience of the most understanding of individuals. There's one act I particularly like. It's a dance. I look at it as a dance, and it encapsulates David completely in my mind. He would start the skipping motion, but he'd be bouncing side to side. I'm going to try to do it for you, but I never learned. I don't have his penchant for rhythm and dance. But he had his hands at his side and he'd be skipping, his head down, and the smile building, and you could see this energy building as he would sit there moving side to side, rhythmically bouncing, and all of a sudden, this explosion of energy, and he'd body check you to the side. Of course, he tended to reuse his material. One day when we were walking in the streets, as we often did down Lucerne, where we grew up, he started to do his bounce and rhythm and everything, and I knew it was coming. So at the last minute, I stepped back and watched with such joy and satisfaction as he soars by into the trees and bushes next to him. He loved to shower people with affection. He was very generous with that. So let's talk about his generosity. There's so many replies, everyone who has shared their love and support, stories about David, from his childhood to times with the McDonald's, to times with the theater and beyond, all say the same thing about how he had this presence. He emanated joy and love, but he was always there when people needed him. When he was an infant, he would, as a young child, he would cuddle up with my parents on the couch to give them the love they probably so desperately needed, because he felt that they needed that to help him and help the family survive. He bought me a bicycle with his bar mitzvah money when I was 13 years old. He'd return library books for people, and he'd shovel out sewage water from your basement if you had to. If you needed him, he knew that you needed him. He was there without question. I'm very glad that he found meaning and purpose in becoming a project manager in the lighting industry. He so loved to develop solutions to help people do better their jobs. It gave him great pleasure. David needed a lot of fuel, as I said, and I'm glad he found an everlasting fuel in the courage, love, most importantly love, and generosity of a fantastic, wonderful, cherished, treasured wife, Ranit Derkson. Courage, love, generosity. That was David. That is David. And we live in strange times. Pandemics separate us. I find that difficult, especially now. But just as courage, love, and generosity help bring David into this world, let courage, love, and generosity, let David's courage, love, and generosity be the lighthouse that brings us home. I love you, David. I'll always remember the dance.